What does this mean? Well, this means that Gilead was married. He actually had a legal wife, and she went on to have sons for him. But he also had Jephthah, and Jephthah was the son of a prostitute. What's up, geeks? It's your guy Q here, aka JGTV, and we are back with another one, guys. And today we are coming back with another episode of trauma. So we've been talking about trauma so far. We've done King David, we've done Moses, and we've done Paul. Today we're going to be talking about Jephthah. Now, Jephthah is someone in the Old Testament who is a Gileadite, and his father is Gilead. And we're going to be in the book of Judges chapter 11 today. So we're going to be talking about Jephthah and some of his trauma. Let's get right into it. So far, we've talked about a couple of great people in the Bible and how they've experienced some major trauma, how they overcame it, some of their coping styles, and how God dealt with them and still used them to be great people who we today talk about. So Jephthah is someone in the Old Testament, the book of Judges, who his father was Gilead. He was a mighty warrior. The problem that Jephthah has, but we see some very early on trauma, is the fact that his mother is a prostitute. What does this mean? Well, this means that Gilead was married. He actually had a legal wife, and she went on to have sons for him. But he also had Jephthah, and Jephthah was the son of a prostitute. As all of Gilead's sons grow older, they actually run Jephthah off. They make him flee to a country of Tob because they tell him, you're not going to get any of our father's inheritance because you are the son of another woman. So they didn't have the same mom. I imagine for Jephthah this would have been some horrible trauma to face early on because, wow, rejection from family, which I think most of us can pretty much relate to, right? We've all experienced rejection from family in some way. Maybe not as bad as this, but some of us have, where we have up and left the state we lived in or the country that we are from to go live a life somewhere else because maybe life with family was just too hard. So his brothers run him away, and he goes off to a land of Tob, and a bunch of pretty much gangsters, men of riffraff, gather around him, and they all begin to follow him. So we know that he is a man who's a mighty warrior. Fighting is not a problem for him. Nonetheless, he's not around any family while he's going through all of this. At some point, they come looking for Jephthah, and they come looking for him because they're in trouble. And he says to them, you know, don't you hate me? Like, why are you here looking for me if you ran me away from my father's house? And they tell him, well, that was the case then, but we come to you now because we need your help. You know, the Amorites have raised against us, and we want you to come fight with us, and you could be leader of us all. So they kind of give him something that they can wage with him a little bit. And he says, well, if I really go back with you, will I really be leader of you? And they say, like, as sure as God is our witness, right? So God's listening to this conversation. As sure as God is our witness, we will do as we say. So he goes back with them. He sends letters to a couple of the kings that are trying to wage war against them. And he goes and he fights for them. Now, if we go further down in Judges chapter 11, it says, but the Amorite king refused to listen to the message that Jephthah sent to him. That's Judges 11:28. So In 29, it says, Then the Lord's Spirit came on Jephthah. He passed through Gilead and Manasseh, then through Mizpah and Gilead. And from there he crossed over to the Ammonites. Jephthah made a solemn promise to the Lord. If you will decisively hand over the Ammonites to me, then whatever comes out the door of my house to meet me when I return victorious from the Ammonites will be given over to the Lord. I will sacrifice it as an entirely burnt offering. So he's basically telling God here, like, Lord, if you will deliver me and you give me victory over these people, the first thing that comes out of my house to greet me when I return home, I'll offer it as a burnt sacrifice to you. So nonetheless, Jephthah goes to war, and the Lord gives him a victory over the Ammonites and everyone else that he's fighting. It says about 20 cities. So the Lord gives him a very victorious victory. But when he goes home from that victorious victory in that war that he's won, the first thing that actually comes out to greet him from the house is his daughter. So he doesn't have any other children other than this one daughter. And the Bible says that he tore his clothes, and he's basically saying in agony, like, daughter, you've caused me so much agony because I've made a vow with the Lord that I can't take back. And I think here, right here, we see another huge traumatic event that happens in his life, because this is clearly a man that's devoted to God, because as he's sending these messages to kings, if you go back and read it early on in Judges, he's pretty much telling the story of Moses and the children of Israel, how they passed through the land and they were always asking permission, but the kings kept telling them no, and then God started to hand them over to the children of Israel, and that's how they began to take over all the land. So he's like, we haven't taken any land from you or from anyone else. This is land that God actually has given us, and what right do you have to come wage war against us? So this is clearly a man that he did see God, even though he was running with a bunch of men who weren't great for him. But he remembered whatever his father and his family instilled in him. So when all of this begins to happen, he still tears his clothes, and that's a sign of mourning. So he still shows reverence to God, even though his daughter is the first thing that comes out of the house. And his daughter is also someone who fears God. And the reason why I say this, you can read it for yourself, is because she says to her father, Dad, listen, like, God has given you a mighty victory over the people who were waging war against you. You should do what you said you would do. You should follow your vow with the Lord. She says, just let me go with my friends for 2 months so I can go into mourning. They were going to go in the mountains with her girlfriends and go mourning that she had never been married and she would never have children. And her father actually allows her to go spend that time with her girlfriends. And when she returns, you know, she goes to her father and he does what he said he would do. So both of this daughter and this father alike, they both have a very strong reverence for God that I don't think in this story is really pointed out a lot. Because I don't think any of my sisters would literally say to either of our parents, like, yeah, you know what, you made that vow with God, like, you should go ahead and kill me, you should go ahead and follow through with that because you honor God so much. Like, no, that wouldn't be their answer. So I think there's something great to be said about his daughter, the fact that she was actually willing to do this, and she tells her father, like, no, you should keep your vow with God and you should do as you said because he gave you a great victory. And it says that every year that there is a festival that happens. It says, when 2 months had passed, she returned to her father, and he did to her what he had promised. She had not known a man intimately, but she gave rise to a tradition in Israel, where for 4 days every year, Israelite daughters would go away to recount the story of the Gileadite Jephthah's daughter. They started a great tradition with their faith, you know, in itself, like what they did by obeying God and what he did by seeking God. And I say this because after Jephthah kills his daughter, he still continues to worship God. He goes off and he still fights battles for God. They even say that they take land near the Jordan River, and anytime someone would come from a certain tribe and try to pass through, the Ephraimites, they would ask them, like, you know, are you an Ephraimite? Are you a refugee? And they would tell them no. And then they would give them a test, a certain word to say. And because the person couldn't pronounce the word correctly, they would kill them right there on the spot. And it says that they slayed about 42,000 men at that time. Another traumatic event. Whether it's secondary trauma or first person, that's a lot of people to see die at one time. And this guy continues to serve God. He actually goes on. It says that Jephthah led Israel for 6 years. Then Jephthah the Gilead died and was buried in one of the towns in Gilead. He served the country and then he passes away. But we see that he does have a reverence for God and God does give him favor. So if God can use someone like this, right, that even to the point where they sacrificed their own daughter because of a vow that they kept to God, right? We think sometimes we've done things that are so bad and so horrible and God cannot use us after that mistake. But even after this, he has a reverence for God and God still continues to use him because just of his obedience and his reverence for him. We see that the Lord was with him when he went into battle. The Lord was also with David many times when he went into battle. This is a sign that the Lord is with someone or that the Lord has handed a certain people over. So I want you guys to know that regardless of what you've done, some of you may say, man, I've done the worst thing. I've killed somebody. I've murdered someone. I've taken a child's life. I've taken an adult's life. Whatever it is, like, God can still continue to use you. As long as you keep him in your life, as long as you repent, as long as you have a reverence of him, you acknowledge Jesus Christ, and you let him be Lord of your life, you can still be used by God, yes, regardless of your past or what has happened. So you guys share this video with anyone who is discouraged about wondering if they can, in fact, be used by God, despite horrible mistakes that have been made, and horrible mistakes that they might have been made in another religion in the name of God, but they realized that it actually wasn't. Share this video and give someone hope, guys. Take care of yourself, guys, and I'm coming back with the next trauma video right behind this one. What do I always say? Love yourselves, love one another, but most of all, love God. Peace.